Wes du har min friend and welcome to yet another video. I have received some requests, my dear friends, to address this particular matter, and because I cherish and love my followers, I shall do so. But first, welcome if you are here for the first time. Welcome to European Lore, a channel of a humble Czech fella who likes to rant about fantasy on the internet. A man who has devoted his entire personal and academic life to the greats of the fantasy genre of the 20th century, as well as Old English literature and language. And that is why my channel is from a huge part devoted to defending these great work of art. Well, against such creatures. Vile creatures such as those who work for Prime Video. So feel free to check out my other videos, my dear friends, such as the reviews of the individual episodes of The Rings of Power. But I think that at this point we all know what it is. And the question at hand is, what's canon? Now, I thought that everybody knows that. I thought that it is quite apparent, but of course, in today's world where one truth is not enough and there have to be multiple truths that change every day, even the word definition changed quite recently on Wikipedia, if I'm not wrong. We simply live in an Orwellian world where, as I said, the history is being rewritten every day as far as well, everything really, but not only the real life history, the primary world's history, but also the secondary world's history and the rules of it as well. Now, of course, this is connected with the Rings of Power, and people are, well, there are some people in the world who are defending this vile show, which has got nothing to do with the works of Professor Tolkien. And some people are even trying to subtly, slowly, silently make some of the abhorrent things canonical, as if they came from the mind of Professor Tolkien himself, because after all, Tolkien never specifically mentioned that elves can't fly, right? So this is the main argument those vile people are using. Now, I am sure that in the comments down below there will be discussions about what is canon and what isn't, and it also differs if you look at the works of Professor Tolkien, if you look at Star Wars, if you look at some older works such as the novels by Charles Dickens, and what is an adaptation, what can be adapted, and what is considered to be too much of a change. Well, I think that first we should say what is not canon, and I think I'm willing to bet that we will agree on that. So what is not a canon? Well, this is not a canon. Acquiring the rights to adapt a chapter worth of notes that were added to the end of the Lord of the Rings novel called The Appendices, and then pay billions and billions of dollars for it, spent more money on advertisement, and then hire two writers and showrunners who had never have any of their scripts accepted by any filmmaking company, who are only connected with the name of J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot, men who, well, have never done anything in their lives as far as production of a good film. Then hiring a plethora of socio-political activists and so-called Tolkien experts who, well, as has been proved, are far from being that. And then spending all this money on producing an Amazon's original stories with Amazon's original characters, out of which some of them bear the names that are shared with the names that appear in the appendices to The Lord of the Rings. And the show itself, then, is poorly made, poorly written. After all, it is written by unskilled, unsuccessful people. The visuals are at best mediocre. If we take into consideration that it's 2022 and that they spend so much money on it, then we have to say that the CGI and the practical effects and the visual representation of anything in that show is at best mediocre. And then, if we take into consideration also the attacks that have been done upon the fans all over the internet and the social media from the side of the showrunners and the screenwriters and the actors, and then being silent about it. Releasing a number the first day of the streaming and then staying silent for months. The show is not adapting The Lord of the Rings. The show is not adapting the appendices to The Lord of the Rings. The show just bears some names that appeared in the works of Professor Tolkien. This is not a canon, whatever you want to call it, however you want to see it. And then, of course, if you look at other things, it differs. I consider, as far as Professor Tolkien goes, for me, the canon is what he wrote with his own hand and what was published during his life or posthumously edited by his son Christopher Tolkien. Everything else is non-canonical. Now, I don't want to take up much of your time, so we shall look at a very different example, and that is Star Wars. Now, there's a bit more tricky, is there? Because we could say, oh, but the author is still alive, but he sold the rights to his creation, and then those rights then belong to somebody else. And then the person or the company who holds the rights can do whatever they want, and they can make the canon whatever they like. Indeed, that is unfortunately true. So, George Lucas created Star Wars. He made the first 6 films, and then there was the expanded universe that was comprised of novels and video games and comic books and TV shows and so on and so forth. And everything was, sanctioned by the Lucasfilm or George Lucas himself or whoever or whatever. Well, then the acquisition came of Lucasfilm by Disney. And that means that George Lucas doesn't own it anymore, and they labeled the old canon Legends, and they are now making their own canon. This is unfortunately official. But in the minds of every fan, there is another canon, a different canon. For me, the old canon is the canon. But first and foremost, the first 6 films are the canon. And then the old expanded universe, I consider to be a nice appendix to those films that I am willing to consider to be the canon. I hate Disney. I do not consider anything that has been done Disney a canon. You might, feel free. But the truth of the matter is that first and foremost, and that is my opinion, we should honor and respect the creator of the works of art in question. Honor the creator. If we lived in a perfect world, that which the creator created by himself or herself is the canon. Nothing else. But of course, this is what your dear old European law is telling you. Let me know in the comments down below what your opinion on the matter is, and that will be all. Thank you very much for watching, and namaste.